Series is brought to you by Husqvarna Forest and Garden Products and Valvoline Motor Oil.
Round 9 of the 1997 PPG Kart World Series sees Paul Tracy determined to return to his winning ways, which took him to the lead of the championship, following a hat-trick of wins on the ovals. But fellow Canadian Greg Moore is the man on a roll at the moment, having won in Milwaukee and Detroit, and now chasing his own hat-trick. And talking of successful runs, Jimmy Vasser is aiming to set a new record for consecutive finishes today, taking his run to 26 and continue his title defence here at Portland International Raceway. Welcome to the state of Oregon in the Pacific Northwest region of America, 150 miles south of Seattle, an area of outstanding natural beauty and an area well known for its fickle weather. This is Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw looking forward to the first PPG kart race of the season to be held on a purpose-built permanent race circuit, very close in character to many tracks in Europe, and a track where Alex Zanardi took his first win last year. Today he starts from 7th place as he seeks to restart his championship campaign, and he's a lot better off than championship leader Paul Tracy, who starts 13th. Up front, Scott Pruitt grabbed his first pole of the season from Gilles de Ferran, but the story of the weekend so far, Jeremy, has been the performance of Christian Fittipaldi, 3rd in qualifying and fastest in this morning's warm-up.
Fantastic effort by Christian Fittipaldi, out with a broken leg for 3 months since that accident in Surfers Paradise, and he's still in quite a bit of pain, Ben, and they're having to take painkillers most of the weekend, but he's done a fantastic job, as you say. 3rd fastest in yesterday's final qualifying session, and what a gripping half hour that was, and then fastest of all in the wet, damp it was this morning in the warm-up session. So really a fabulous drive from Christian Fittipaldi, and it's great to see him back here on the circuit.
Let's take a look at the grid. Scott Pruitt, his second career pole, starting from the front row alongside him is Gilles de Ferran after a tremendous battle in the end of qualifying yesterday. Christian Fittipaldi then, as we mentioned, returning in fine style here. Maurizio Gugelmin, who was so disappointed in Detroit 2 weeks ago, looking still for his first kart success. On the 3rd row of the grid, Dario Franchitti disappointingly dropped back to 5th place after being in 2nd after the first qualifying session. Still a great performance as he lines up alongside the 3-time winner Michael Andretti here at Portland. Alex Zanardi, his first kart win came here 12 months ago. Can he do the same again this year? Lined up alongside his teammate Jimmy Vasser has completed all but 1 lap this season in all of the races held so far. Greg Moore is the winner of the last 2 races on the PPG Kart Tour, and alongside him is Bobby Rahal, who won this race at Portland back in '87. Mark Blundell starts 11th, the leader at Detroit with just a kink to go, but it didn't happen for him. Alongside him is Brian Herter, his 4th start at Portland. Paul Tracy back in 13th place on the grid, but still the points leader in the championship. He's back after the medical problem that kept him out of the race in Detroit. Alongside him is Raul Boesel. Then we see Alonso Jr. in 15th place. He's won here 3 times as well. Adrian Fernandez has been in the points in his 3 visits to this track. Juan Fangio has had 2 accidents in 2 days. He went off yesterday in qualifying. He also damaged the car this morning in the warm-up. PJ Jones lines up alongside him, but a good qualifying performance from the Toyota-powered cars on this occasion. Next up, Parker Johnston, the local man. He's had a disappointing weekend so far, and he's looking to improve on a 5th place finish here last year. Andre Ribeiro still struggling somewhat with the Lola chassis. Walter Salles, his first American win came here last year in the Indy Light Series, and he's been going well in the wet conditions held this weekend so far. Michel Jourdain in a Reynard this weekend for the first time. Patrick Carpentier, apart from Jimmy Vasser, he's the only one to finish every race this year. Alongside him is Richie Hearn, one of 7 drivers making their first start here at Portland. Max Papis, his best finish of the year came at Detroit 2 weeks ago when he finished 11th. Christian Danner scored a point in Detroit as well when he finished 12th. At the back of the grid, Hiro Matsushita and Arndt Meyer. And we've had a Japanese success already here today, the Indy Lights race being won by Hideki Noda. And Jeremy, those were in similarly tricky conditions. Great drive it was from Hideki Noda.
It certainly was. He passed around the outside of Helio Castro Neves in turn 1 there at the end of the front straightaway. Tremendous pass around the outside. Went on to win his first race in 6 years since his Formula 3 success in England. So great effort by him. But very interesting track this. Long front straightaway, very, very tight first right and left chicane there. That's the festival curves. Very fast first turn as well, and then this sort of sweeping section of corners, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right, left, and then back onto this long curving straightaway, a chicane at the end of that straightaway leading into turn 9, which is actually the tightest corner on this track, brings you back out on the front straightaway. So it's really 2 long straightaways and and a couple of twiddly bits at either end, but it's a difficult compromise in terms of the setup of these cars, Ben.
And one of the major problems is getting into the first chicane safely on the opening lap. Now, in the Indy Lights, we saw a little bit of a problem there, and in past races here at Portland, it's caused many problems. The festival chicane, very, very tight indeed, and of course, in these weather conditions, it's going to be even tougher, isn't it?
Yes, it's inviting trouble. I know Wally Dallenbach, the chief steward, had a pretty stern talk with these drivers in the drivers' meeting. Just told them, just try and keep a little bit more room between the rows as you come up for the start. There's no point in losing the race at the first corner, so we're looking for a clean start this afternoon.
View from Bobby Rahal, who lines up in 10th position on the grid for this round 9 of the PPG Kart World Series on a very slippery track. The rooster tails coming up even at these fairly slow speeds. We now switch to the onboard camera with Jimmy Vasser. He starts back on the 4th row alongside teammate Alex Zanardi. They've had a busy weekend already, Jeremy, because they were both racing in the IROC race held last night.
Yes, in California Speedway, along with Alan Jr., who finished 6th, I believe it was, behind 5 NASCAR drivers. Tyres are going to be a big key, as ever, here this afternoon. On the front row there's Gilles de Ferran. On the right-hand side of the screen is on Goodyear's wet weather tyre. On the left, Scott Pruitt, the pole winner, on Firestone's.
So we're getting ready for the start of the 98 laps to be held here. Unless it goes to the 2-hour limit, we'll have to wait and see in these conditions. We've got a great race in prospect as they come out of the final turn and head down towards the starting gantry, waiting for it to go green. It goes green flag. We ride on board with Michael Andretti as they head down towards the chicane. Remember, it's the tricky chicane. Watch for Franchitti. He's on the far left of your picture. Dario Franchitti in the Hogan car, but it's Pruitt who turns in first. 1 or 2 cars running wide. One of the Ganassi cars looks as though it could have been Zanardi getting into a bit of trouble coming into that first corner. Looks as though most people have managed to pick their way through safely, though. And somebody's off down there, and that is Dario Franchitti. Dario Franchitti running onto the grass. Looks as though he was squeezed out by somebody. As you can see, the spray really kicking up, and it is Scott Pruitt who leads. Gilles de Ferran in 2nd position. Mauricio Guterman has started extremely well there. He's up into 3rd place, and in fact battling to try and get past 2nd there.
That's very interesting. Mauricio Guterman, of course, on the Firestone tyres, which last year, of course, were hopeless in the wet conditions in Detroit. Big improvements, obviously, by the Firestone engineers here, and Guterman's all over the back of Gilles de Ferran as they go onto the back straight away. Guterman on the outside, there's a long way around. There's Bobby Rahal off the road.
Yeah, we've got someone off already. Bobby Rahal, the experienced 3-time former champion, has become a victim. Now, whether there was contact there or not in all that spray, very difficult for the drivers to see where they were and to see another car alongside, perhaps. So Bobby Rahal off on the grass as Scott Pruitt comes around to complete his first lap. Gilles de Ferran is in 2nd position. 3rd place is Maurizio Guterman, though, and Guterman still looking to find a way past. 4th position is Christian Fittipaldi. Then there's a big battle going on for 5th position right behind him with Andretti, Vasser and Franchitti still in there. Franchitti's dropped down to 7th, but there's quite a gaggle of cars going through, and as they blast past us on the pit straight here, clouds of water vapour going up in the air, and we've got de Ferran. De Ferran spun it. He's off. De Ferran, you ride with him as he slides across the grass, and that means that Guterman has gone up into 2nd place now, and Gilles de Ferran tries to get back on the track. He rejoins in the middle of this gaggle. Franchitti almost gets squeezed out as they rejoin by Jimmy Vasser, and now Mark Blundell is right behind de Ferran.
Yeah, the Goodyear tyres don't seem to be working too well. Bobby Rahal, of course, on Goodyear's. I was speaking to Mauricio Guterman after the sort of wet, dry session on Friday morning. He said the Firestone wet weather tyres seem to be particularly good when it's properly wet. And there's a sort of quick glimpse of the safety car getting in there to pull Bobby Rahal's car out of the way. That's a fairly dangerous move. There goes Paul Tracy, though. His Goodyear tyres are working very well indeed there. Here's got Blundell looking to pass him around the outside line. Oh, dear me, there he is. That's pretty tight racing there. He's got the inside line there for the turn 7-8 chicane. Will he take advantage of it? No. Smart move, I think, by Mark Blundell. No point in forcing the issue this early.
Yeah, but it's good to see Tracy working his way up. Remember, he started in 13th place, was going well in this morning's warm-up as well. Towards the end of the session, very difficult conditions in this morning's warm-up. There is Christian Fittipaldi, and he is running in what is now 3rd place, I think. Yes, having de Ferran having moved back, and Franchitti's trying to pass Andretti into the chicane, doesn't quite make it, and the Hogan car drops back in behind Michael Andretti, the winner at Homestead, as you ride on board Jimmy Vasser right behind these two. Gilles de Ferran has dropped to 1 place behind Vasser in 7th place now. Paul Paul Tracy is up to 8th position. Good effort that. Mark Blundell is 9th, and Alex Zanardi was Zanardi who got squeezed on that opening lap into the chicane. He's down now in 10th position with Greg Moore 11th, Alonso Jr. 12th, Raul Boesel 13th, and Fernandez in 14th position.
So tremendous start here by Scott Pruitt there. 1 minute 19 was his last lap around there. Compared to the pole, of course, of 59.5 or thereabouts. So nearly 20 seconds off the pole time. There is Dario Franchitti looking to get away past around Mario Andretti. That is for 4th position. The first two pulled well away from Christian Fittipaldi already. Christian, in fact, is 7 seconds or more behind the front runners. And there goes Franchitti. Not this time to the inside there at the back chicane.
Not quite yet, but again, it looks as though the Firestone tyre has got more grip than the Goodyear in this case, because Michael Andretti on the Goodyear rain tyre, Dario Franchitti on the Firestone rain tyre, and he is all over the back of the former champion. Franchitti really charging, but he's got Jimmy Vasser right behind him, and Vasser is also on Firestones. Can we pick them out of the glue? On board with Jimmy Vasser as they head down towards the chicane. Franchitti again trying to get down the inside. All this time he's made it. Great move from Dario Franchitti, overtaking one of the hardest racers in the business, Michael Andretti, but Andretti couldn't do an awful lot about it, and now he's got Jimmy Vasser right behind him as well. Can Franchitti hold off Andretti as they go into what is known as turn 1, that chicane being added in later on in the evolution of this racetrack, so this is still known as turn 1, the chicane known as the Festival chicane, but Jimmy Vasser not able to get past Michael Andretti there. It does mean though that Franchitti's moved up into 4th place now.
What a great effort again. There's Mark Blundell diving down the inside there. I think that was Gilles de Ferran, wasn't it? Going to turn 2 with a sliding around the Texaco car of Michael Andretti. We're on board now with Jimmy Vasser, who really has been driving magnificently, I think, this season. Had a couple of bits of bad luck early on in the early races, but really putting it together now. Great drive. Here he is challenging Michael Andretti on the back straightaway.
So the positions at the moment: Scott Pruitt leads, Guterman 2nd, Fittipaldi 3rd, Franchitti up to 4th from Andretti and Vasser. And we're taking a little look back now. This Gilles de Ferran spinning and getting back onto the circuit. In fact, that was in fact the point at when he lost all that time earlier on, and that dropped him down to where he is now in 7th place. Bobby Rahal back on the... let's just take a look at what happened to Bobby Rahal. This is when he spun it. We saw his car on the grass earlier. It was just too much power through the corner. The back end slid round and off went Bobby Rahal. So, seeing a lot of drama here already. And in fact, Scott Pruitt looks as though he may have been passed by Guterman, but I think that's not quite right.
Back to the PPG Kart World Series with Husqvarna, Forest and Garden Products.
Welcome back to Portland, and you can see just how bad the weather conditions are at the moment. The rain coming down very, very heavily again. We're under yellow flag now as Guterman leads from Scott Pruitt and Dario Franchitti. Alex Zanardi in 4th place, and behind him Mark Blundell has moved up to 5th, and Christian Fittipaldi down to 6th. The reason for the yellow flag was that cone that was in the middle of the road in turn 2. I think they'd hoped that one of the cars would clip it out of the way, but it didn't happen over several laps. So in the end, the car safety team were brought out to get that cone in. Let me tell you, just looking across from our commentary position, that Christian Danner has decided to come into the pits. We've also seen one other tactical stop from Brian Herter. That was a very quick stop from Christian Danner. Hardly had time to do anything there. As there you see on the inset him coming back out again. It's very early in the race to make a stop. We've only completed 12 laps, and but of course the teams, maybe those teams that are not running very well up, like Brian Herter, Christian Danner, they were outside the sort of top 17, 18 places. It's worth a bit of a gamble at this point.
Certainly is, and he's be able to go that much longer before making his next stop. So, if there's another yellow at the opportune time, then maybe they can gain an advantage out of it. So, certainly nothing to lose from those two teams.
So Maurizio Guterman leads them around. You were just making the point a moment ago that Mark Blundell's gone well, because he started down in the 11th place. He's now up to 5th position. So again, both Pac West cars are really working well in these wet conditions. And Blundell, who's had more work to do, remember Guterman started on the 2nd row of the grid anyway, but Blundell's working his way up pretty effectively at the moment.
Yeah, last half a dozen laps he passed Gilles de Ferran, then he passed Jimmy Vasser and Michael Andretti, and then also passed Christian Fittipaldi. So great drive by Mike Blundell. Of course, he's got a point to prove after after last weekend. Another good effort, farther down the field there. 16th position, car number 19, Michel Jourdain Jr., I think worth a mention. He started 22nd up to 16th, so that's a brand new car to him this weekend. It's actually the former test car of Team Rahal. It's a Reynard 97, and he had very little time in that car, but he's driving extremely well. He was actually right on the tail of Alan Jr., who's ahead of him before this pace car interruption. So good effort by Michel Jourdain Jr., and here we are back up to green flag racing again. The pace car is in to the pit lane. There goes Mauricio Guzman. This will be 13th lap in the books, and there is Scott Pruitt getting his way past the tail end car of PJ Jones.
But watch out behind, because we've now got a great battle with Franchitti and Zanardi in behind those two as well, and on board with Jimmy Vasser battling with Michael Andretti. That's the battle for 8th place. But let's get back up front as Franchitti just about fends off Zanardi into the festival chicane, but they're all together now. Pruitt, Franchitti, Zanardi, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vasser side by side as they come through there. Fittipaldi's been dropped back. He's dropped some places there, so that means it looks as though Andretti's now come up into 6th position. And Mark Blundell should be just a little ahead of that. We'll try and spot where Mark is. There he goes through picture. He's still ahead of Michael Andretti, but Vasser has also moved past Fittipaldi now, who's dropped down into 8th place. But still a great effort from Fittipaldi. Remember, his first drive after breaking his leg in Australia. And there is the view of Christian's car, the Budweiser car, the Swift chassis, same as Michael Andretti. And this is a good, oh, look at Carpentier, he's lost it. The back end's gone, he's lost it right in front of Andre Ribeiro, 360 degrees. Jourdain nearly loses it and trying to get past him. Carpentier rejoins, and just as he did in this morning's warm-up, a 360 with no damage, but Carpentier is struggling out there.
Quite a nice save, actually, wasn't it? Dead straight line, he continues, selects first gear, off he goes. Second gear, probably, actually, in these conditions. But yeah, he's been struggling this weekend. Patrick Carpentier with the Alimax car. He's great on the ovals, but really having a hard time here. As the cars come past to complete lap 14, Guzman already 3.2 seconds to the good. And here is a battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, with Franchitti holding off there, Alex Zanardi into the festival curves.
Isn't this good to see? They're all on Firestone tyres. They're all driving Reynard chassis, but we've got 3 engine manufacturers. As Zanardi now has got a great run out of there, yes. And that was he was smoother on the power. You saw Franchitti get sideways. He had to lift off the throttle, and that meant that he lost momentum out of the corner. Zanardi now pops up into 3rd position. Franchitti back to 4th, but a great effort. Remember, Franchitti had never driven an Indy car in wet conditions before this weekend. The first time he drove it in the wet was here just the other day. He said it takes a bit of getting used to, and yet there he is up running in the top 3, back down to 4th position at the moment, but nonetheless a great effort. Zanardi, more experience in the wet, winner here last year. We did a great job in the wet on slick tyres. He's now up into 3rd and chasing after Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, desperate to get his season back into gear after a couple of disappointing results for Alex Zanardi. So certainly a tremendous drive this afternoon. There he is through that chicane, using all the road on the exit, and you'll see him there. He's quite a way off the apex of that corner in turn 9. Smart move. They often get puddles down there, down in that little dip where the apex is, and Alex Zanardi now has his sights set on Scott Pruitt's 2nd position.
A little bit of news from the pits. We saw Fangio in the pits a moment ago. He's had a black flag for violating the blend line, coming out of the pits and not keeping over to the inside of the track. So he's had a black flag, had to come into the pit lane. That's the reason we saw him in that inset box. Meanwhile, the battle goes on behind as Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vasser fight for what is 6th place now. And Greg Moore trying to get past Fittipaldi. That was close. He just about managed to squeeze into the corner, bump it over the curb and avoid hitting the back of Fittipaldi's car. But Greg Moore looking to try and move into 8th place. That's Fittipaldi's property. But Greg Moore looking to get up a place and further up into the top 10 now.
Fascinating, isn't it, how much work and how successful have been the Bridgestone Firestone engineers in getting these wet weather tyres up to speed. We've thought that in Formula 1, haven't we? We thought that if there was a wet race in Formula 1, they might have an advantage. Certainly, Rubens Barrichello's performance at Monaco in the Monaco Grand Prix showed how good the Bridgestone wets are in Formula 1. And now here's Greg Moore trying to make a move there on Christian Fittipaldi. Can't make it done that time, but certainly Firestone has an enormous advantage, it seems, here this afternoon in full wet conditions.
It does seem that way. Remember, a complete turnaround to just over 12 months ago in Detroit, where they were a complete shambles in the wet conditions. It just shows you how much improvement they've made with their wet weather tyres, and Greg Moore still looking to find a way past. Behind him, by the way, is the car of Raul Boesel, who's got past Gilles de Ferran now on that last lap as well. So Boesel has moved up into 10th position as Greg Moore now looking for the slipstream. And the trouble is, of course, he then loses all vision, but he's moving to the inside as they come down to the festival chicane. Can he outbrake Fittipaldi? Not quite. Again, can't quite make it, and Christian's doing a great job of holding him off. Remember, Christian driving with a broken leg, still with pins in that leg. It's repairing, but he's still in some pain, and he's having to left foot brake everywhere. Normally on a road course he would brake with his right foot as normal, but he's had to develop the art of left foot braking on a road course, and I would say he's doing a pretty good job. Under pressure, it's hard to make, it's very easy to make a mistake, and Fittipaldi so far doing a great job there in 8th place. Up front at the moment though, it's Maurizio Gugelmin as the rain continues to come down. Heavier and heavier, it really is coming down very, very hard indeed. Gugelmin is our race leader on lap number 17. Scott Pruitt in 2nd, Zanardi 3rd, Franchitti 4th, Mark Blundell in 5th, and Michael Andretti is 6th.
Back to the PPG Kart World Series with Valvoline Motor Oil.
Maurizio Gugelmin then leads around this course on lap number 24 as the pits wait as well to see what's going to happen next. And we should be getting this race underway now as they come out of the last couple of corners. They'll be building up the speed. You can see Gugelmin now beginning to line everybody up together. And Michael Andretti there, he's lying down in, well, he's outside the top 17 now.
15th now, I think he is, after that pit stop. And once again, there's one of the Dan Gurney's All-American racers, Reynard Toyota's on Goodyear tyres, of course, between those first two leaders. So that'll enable Gugelmin perhaps to get a good jump off turn 9 and get a good lead going into the festival curves. But Fangio, very experienced driver, keeps well out of the way there. Good move by him, allows Scott Pruitt to go through on the inside. Next will be Alex Zanardi, and then the two British drivers, Dario Franchitti and Mark Blundell, hot on his heels as well.
Franchitti down on the inside, but staying behind Zanardi as they go into the festival chicane, and now Mark Blundell looking for a way past. Then Greg Moore's got up there and past Fittipaldi. Good battle as Alonso Jr. tries to squeeze past, and near Gilles de Ferran almost loses it coming out of the corner on the power as Alonso Jr. was trying to go past you. Right on board with Gilles de Ferran now, and he's lost that place to Alonso Jr. Jr. the 3 times winner here at Poland, including his first ever win back in 1984. I think you were here for that, weren't you?
I was actually the first kart race that I saw over here in 1984. A great drive it was by young Alonso Jr. Of course, plenty of winning since then. Took him 10 years to win another race here, but then of course he won again in 95, so he certainly knows what it takes around this racetrack.
But the weather is not suiting the Goodyear tyres on the Penske at the moment. Gugelmin pulls away. Scott Pruitt is in 2nd. He's pulled away a little bit from Alex Zanardi. That's still the battle that we're focusing on, though, the battle for 2nd place. There's the red car of Zanardi, the target car of the Italian who won here last year, still being chased by the silver and blue car of Dario Franchitti. Putting in a great performance so far, as we've seen in the last few races from Franchitti. Really settling into this series now. We're just over the halfway point in the championship, and I suppose it's a time that the learning curve is really now being turned into race performances, and that's exactly what Franchitti's doing as he chases after Zanardi. Remember, they had contact in the last race, though, in Detroit, when they hit each other in the first corner. That puts Zanardi out of the race. He didn't attach too much blame to Dario after the race. He said, well, it was just one of those things, a little bit unfortunate. He said, Alex said, I've been fairly lucky in recent times not to have been hit on one of those first corner incidents that can happen so often. Sometimes your luck runs out. So I don't think there's any bad feeling between these two, but a good battle going on nonetheless.
Yeah, and actually I saw Dario Franchitti in a subsequent test at Mid-Ohio last week, a week ago now, and he was saying he actually hadn't had a word with Alex Zanardi after that incident, but he was planning to go see him, just say, you know, just talk about it a little bit. He knows there's no animosity there. He said it was nothing deliberate from either of their points of view. So it's good to see that Dario has that intention of going to see Alex, just smooth it out, make sure there's no bad blood between them.
So the battle continues there. Maurizio Gugelmin, though, has opened up a bit of an advantage again. It was 1.5 seconds at the end of the last lap. Let's see if he's still getting away. Scott Pruitt running in 2nd, Alex Zanardi in 3rd place, and then Dario Franchitti in 4th. Now, one of the question marks with the fight, Franchitti was very sideways out of that corner, out of turn 9, and in fact that's given a chance for Mark Blundell to close up a little bit as they come down the start-finish straight. I don't think Mark's going to be quite close enough to put a challenge on Dario as they come into the chicane, but Franchitti very sideways sideways. One of the little question marks about the Firestone wet tyre is its wear characteristics once it starts to dry out a little bit. Now that's not happening yet, it's still very wet on track, but there's a little bit of concern that once the track starts to dry out, the Firestone wet tyre could wear more quickly than the Goodyear. Having said that, they've got such an advantage over the Goodyear in these conditions that really shouldn't matter.
That's certainly what the Goodyear runners are hoping and counting on at this stage in the proceedings, aren't they, Ben?
Yes, they're a long way back now, and they're struggling to keep up with these front-running Firestone drivers, as on board with Alex Zanardi, still in third place. We've got a report that Max Papis has slowed down on the backstretch. We may see that here. We're on the backstretch, and look out for the blue MCI car of Max Papis, which is reportedly going quite slowly now. Can't see it in that shot. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But Papis reported in trouble. He was quite a long way down the order already, and in fact we see him coming into the pits now, so there's obviously troubles for the Italian who's come back from Le Mans this weekend to compete in the kart series, and he's got a few guys looking around the back of his car, so it looks as though there is some sort of mechanical problem for Max Papis. Back to the battle for a second. Scott Pruitt versus Alex Zanardi, and you can see how it's changed, and look how close again Zanardi gets to the back of Scott Pruitt's car as they come through this very, very tight chicane. Very difficult to get on the power smoothly here, even out of this right-hand part. Again, Zanardi's got a bit of a run on Pruitt, and he's going to go for it down the inside this time. Sneaks past, but can he hold it all together? Yes, he can. And Zanardi moves up into second position now and goes chasing after Maurizio Gugelmin. Good, clean overtaking move from the Italian, and there wasn't really a lot that Scott Pruitt could do in the end.
Beautiful move, beautifully executed. There is Alex Zanardi struggling to get the power down on the target car. Reynard Honda, this will be his best run for a while there this season, since his win at Long Beach, of course. And he wants now to set his sights on Maurizio Gugelmin. 2.2 seconds up the road last time around. We just saw him flash out of the picture there. A little bit down the order. I've got to make another call for Michel Jourdain Jr. On that last lap, he passed Gilles de Ferran and Al Unser Jr. on the same lap. He's in 10th position. I think it's a tremendous effort.
Great performance from Michel Jourdain, and remember he switched from a Lola chassis to a Reynard chassis for this weekend. They've acquired the Bobby Rahal team test car, and Jourdain doing a great job with it, as you say, up to 10th place, highly rated by his English engineer when he was with the Lola. Mike Wright said he was a really top talent. Look at this, Franchitti looking to get past Pruitt, and he does it. So Franchitti moves up into third position. Dario Franchitti into third place. You see Max Papis in the pits in the inset, and a lot of work still going on Papis Reynard, but Franchitti has moved up into third. So we've got Gugelmin leading, and now in second place Zanardi, Franchitti in third, Pruitt's back to fourth as you ride on board with Bobby Rahal, who's lying in 7th place. Let's just see if we can listen to the amount of throttle he's using. Oh, in fact had to lift a little bit there and onto the straight, although we seem to be picking up somebody else's sound, in fact not Bobby Rahal's sound properly as he comes down the straight. We're picking it up a little bit late, and he still continues to run as Maurizio Gugelmin leads this race by some 2 seconds over Alex Zanardi. Scott Pruitt in third place, Franchitti in fourth, ahead of Blundell, Greg Moore, Raul Boesel, Christian Fittipaldi's dropped to 8th, Parker Johnston 9th, and Michel Jourdain in 10th. Problems for Christian Danner though. Christian Danner, the German driver, in his second outing this weekend, as Max Papis also gets out of his car. So some of the European drivers getting into trouble with reliability problems. We didn't see what's happened to Christian Danner just yet. Remember, he stepped into the car in Detroit, Christian Danner. Was the car being driven by Paul Jasper? The deal came together very late indeed, and in fact the deal for this weekend came together very late as well. But Christian Danner looks as though he's in some sort of trouble. Now then, let's concentrate on what's happening up front. Gugelmin's lead over Zanardi on the last lap, just over 1 second, but it is closing up now. The gap is very, very close.
Yeah, there is Alex Zanardi sideways on the pad. He halved the gap last time around here. 2 seconds down in 1 second. It's a lot less than that now as they go through turn 5 and onto the curving back straightaway here at Portland International Raceway. There is Gugelmin running outside line. There's a little bit more water out there perhaps. We hear there's another full course yellow. We can look out of the window. The double yellow flags flying once again. and so a little bit of respite here for Mauricio Gugelmin. Could well be time for pit stops any second now, I would suggest.
Yeah, 29 laps completed. Watch for them coming into the pits, perhaps. Gugelmin does it straight into the pits, and Zanardi follows him. So now we're going to see some battles in the pit lane as the leaders come into the pits. Will Franchitti come in as well? We'll try and keep an eye out for you. Franchitti's pit almost opposite us on the start. Yes, there is Franchitti. He's into the pits as well. So all of the leaders. Pruitt is in as well. Mark Blundell is into the pits. The two Pac West cars will be in. Watch out for Blundell's car coming in almost next to Gugelmin's car that you're looking at the moment. Gugelmin came in as race leader. Will he come out of the pits as race leader? Greg Moore squeezes in ahead of Gugelmin. Gugelmin gets out again. But what about everybody else? Zanardi's been quicker. The Ganassi team have done a better job than the Pac West team. And Alex Zanardi comes out ahead of Maurizio Gugelmin. Great pit work. That's exactly what happened to him in Long Beach when he got past Gilles de Ferran. And now Zanardi goes into the lead. That looks like where Christian Danner's car is stopped on the outside there. Gugelmin comes out in second position. Let's see if we can spot who comes out in that. There's a smile on the face of Chip Ganassi. Slow stop from Dario Franchitti. That was a slow stop. We didn't see what the problem was there, but he comes out very late compared to the others.
Yeah, what a great shame for Dario Franchitti. He'd been driving brilliantly once again. But as you say, tremendous work by the Target Chip Ganassi team. And I think that Jimmy Vasser, who of course had made his stop earlier on, I think you might find him there in the top 3 or 4. I think he's there in third place actually, right behind Mauricio Gugelmin for this restart. We're on board now with the race leader, which will be Alex Zanardi. There is Mauricio Gugelmin behind him. Looks just like Jimmy Vasser's car behind, and I think probably Scott Pruitt will be in fourth position for the restart.
Yes, so the move of Jimmy Vasser to come in earlier working now, but of course don't forget he'll be out of sequence with the next round of stops. Depends on the weather a little bit. Weather conditions much the same, still a light rain falling, so there's not much danger of the track drying out at this point. And of course they've now had a chance to put new wet tyres on. Those other wet tyres could well have been getting a bit worn. We've had some fairly dry running at some stages. Let's have a look at what happened in the pit lane. Alex Zanardi coming out of the pit lane, and that was Maurizio Gugelmin on the right, and you could see that was Zanardi's advantage. Maurizio Gugelmin hadn't quite got out of his pit as Zanardi came past. So one up for the Chip Ganassi team for Target Racing. They did an absolutely great performance there. A lot of pressure on the team, of course, but they did exactly what was required, and that means Zanardi's ahead. And we saw in the last period of green flag racing just how quick Zanardi was. He was getting closer and closer to Gugelmin, so I would imagine we may well see Zanardi managing to pull away a bit from Gugelmin. Vasser goes through in third, Pruitt fourth, and Tracy's well up there now. Situation after 31 laps completed then. Alex Zanardi, our race leader, under yellow flag at the moment for a couple of cars that ran into trouble. Gugelmin second, Vasser third, Pruitt is fourth, Tracy fifth, and Michael Andretti now in sixth position. The scene here at Portland as the track clear-up is continuing, trying to get rid of the worst of the puddles, although the yellow flag we're under at the moment is more down to Christian Danner's car that went off to the side of the road. Still a few cars into and out of the pits. Don't worry, that wasn't Mark Blundell, that was one of his refuelers who wears the same colour crash helmet. Mark's still out there running in 7th place at the moment. Richie Hearn just rejoining, as I mentioned, and sad to see that after that first round of pit stops, Dario Franchitti was a big loser there, Jeremy, because I see he's now down in 17th position. Yeah,
bad luck. That's the second race running there. It was a little fitting within the refueling system that cost him last time. Great shame for Dario Franchitti.
Well, we've got the weather here, but in 2 weeks' time, the kart series goes to the Burke Lakefront Airport on the shores of Lake Erie. Cleveland, Ohio, the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Grand Prix of Cleveland. Last year, Gilles de Ferran managed to win the race for Jim Hall, holding off Alex Zanardi to take his second career win. You'll be able to see it, of course, here live on Eurosport. Back to the action here, though, at Portland. Just one lap to go as the signal is given to the drivers that we're going to get this race underway again. 32 laps completed. Interesting, in fact, Jeremy, this weekend is it's Mark Blundell down on the inside. I think he's okay. Wondered if he was just slowing down a bit, but I think he's just moving off the line that everybody else is taking. Down in 7th position now, by the way. This weekend here at Portland, it's part of the Rose Festival, and in fact this is one of the events on the Rose Festival, which comes to an end this weekend. Portland known as the City of the Roses, but somewhat suitably I noticed in the local press that today they were having the Rose Festival duck race, and I think the weather's slightly more suitable for the duck race than for the Grand Prix.
Absolutely right. I think, I don't know what sort of a crowd they're drawing there, but there's certainly a big crowd here at Portland International Raceway. Remarkable, really, considering the conditions. They really are rather miserable, and it's cool with it as well, so it actually makes me feel quite at home.
Yeah, well, the most remarkable thing was yesterday, Joe. I mean, we were watching that Super Touring race in the most incredible rainstorm just before the race started, and there, those hardy fans were out there, weren't they, in their sort of plastic mats or whatever, still sitting in the grandstands. We had a hailstorm at one point.
It was amazing, wasn't it? David Donahue, incidentally, won the first of those races in the Pac West Dodge Stratus. That's a car, of course, built by Reynard Engineering in Bicester, with a lot of technical input there. And the other race was won by Peter Cunningham in a Honda Accord, so honours split there. But certainly today it's all, well, it's not all, but the first part of the race was dominated by Mauricio Gugelmin in his Mercedes-powered Reynard. Now it's Alex Zanardi in a Honda-powered Reynard out of the front of the field. The common denominator, of course, the Firestone tyres.
That's right. Of course, Mercedes have had a good run recently. They've won 5 races in a row thanks to the efforts of Paul Tracy and Greg Moore. It means that they're leading the Manufacturers' Championship at the moment over Ford by some 30 points. But Honda are lying 3rd in the Manufacturers' Championship. And if Zanardi can keep up this performance, and Vassar as well, who's running in 3rd place, that will get them back on track. And they're lying only 6 points behind Ford in that championship battle.
Yeah, getting ready for the restart here. It's interesting how those earlier pit stops there for Jimmy Vassar and Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti back in 5th and 6th places were able to pay off for them and move them back up the order. So good strategy by those two teams.
Away we go again then. Alex Zanardi leads them out. Oh, we've got a spinner. I think that's Scott Pruitt, is it? Can't quite see at the moment. I think Scott Pruitt lost it as he got the power down coming out of the final corner. And that was the man lying in 4th position. He's blown it. He has spun away his chances by the looks of things, unless something dramatic happens. Scott Pruitt right down to the back of the queue as Alex Zanardi leads through the first chicane. Gugelmin in 2nd, Vassar in 3rd, with Paul Tracy now up into 4th, Andretti 5th, being chased by Mark Blundell in 6th. Alonso Jr. banging wheels with Dario Franchitti. Oh, and Franchitti and Jr. on the grass. They've hit each other, taken each other off, and they're both out of it by the looks of it, straight into the tyre barrier on the outside of the chicane. And that all looked a bit unnecessary, but we'll have to see what happens on the replay. Let's hope we get another view of that, because they just seemed to get together halfway round. Perhaps they just got interlocked and they couldn't release themselves again from that incident. Unfortunately, it means the end of the race for Dario Franchitti and for Al Unser Jr. And unsurprisingly, we've gone to yellow flags once again. Al Unser Jr. stays in the car as just to damage the front end of his. Let's take another look at what happened. There they are in the background of the picture, side by side coming out of the corner. There they both seem to have enough room at that particular point. Let's just see as they get together. Well, they just made a little bit of contact and then they got hooked together pretty much, and that was it. They were both off into the tyres. I guess just one of those things in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's so slippery. There's a concrete there, as you can see there in the foreground. It's very, very slippery there, and you know, I think it's just one of those. There's Alan Sir Jr., of course, devastated because he had a horrendous run of luck here in the last few races, and that doesn't help his cause at all. But you know, it's awfully difficult to make a call on that. It's so slippery. There they are on the left-hand side of the corner. They've already interlocked by the time they come into the screen and go into the barriers there. But it takes just the slightest tap. When the two cars are alongside each other, they're slightly curving there in any case. And you know, the rear wheels, of course, the rear track is slightly wider than the front track, and you get them tangled together and they just sort of turn off, spin off the road together. Great shame for both drivers.
It is a shame, and Franchitti, who was running so well, of course, he lost a lot of time on the first pit stop, and it just seems the pit stops going wrong this year for Hogan Racing and for Dario Franchitti. Meanwhile, there's Scott Pruitt trying to get started again. He spun it, remember. This is a replay of what happened to Pruitt. Watch for the 4th place car. There he was, just too much power, too early in the corner. Round came the back end, and that spun him, and unfortunately he stalled it as well in trying to avoid everybody, or them avoiding him. I think he then hit the brakes, rolling back a little bit there, which is probably the best thing to do because the normal line is around the outside there, but then the car stops. Alonso Jr. walks slowly back to the paddock and looking very disappointed. Let's take another look at that Scott Pruitt incident from Michael Andretti.
So that's Paul Tracy's car in front of Michael Andretti. Scott Pruitt is a driver in front of that. And there he just gets around. He goes, it's like an ice rink out there. It's so slippery. And there goes Michael Andretti. He pulls over the inside to protect his line down into the next corner.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty difficult manoeuvre there. I think we've got Carl Hogan down in the pits, hopefully, and that's Dario's team owner.
Let's get down to Marty Reed.
Yes, we're down here with a very unhappy Carl Hogan. Carl, you saw the replay, and you went over to had a few words with some of the Penske people. Care to share with us your thoughts?
Well, I just asked him outside what happened, because that's not like Junior to do something like that. And he, you know, I'm sure something happened. They pushed us off the track, but it's just unfortunate. Get a little sick and tired of this stuff.
Obviously, very, very frustrated Carl Hogan.
He's angry, isn't he? He is seriously angry about that. But when we looked at it on the replay, it looked as though Al was trying to give Dario a bit of space, and it's just too slippery out there, and I don't think he can really give Al Unser Jr. too hard a time about that. Still on yellow flags, we're going to take a break. Stay with us here on Eurosport.
Back to the PPG Kart World Series with Husqvarna, Forest and Garden Products.
The stricken car of Al Unser Jr. being taken away after the incident between himself and Dario Franchitti that has put them both out of the race, which is a very disappointing incident. We've just got one lap to go now until the track goes green once again, so we'll be racing once more here at Portland. It's been a dramatic race. It really has, all sorts of changes. First wet race we've seen of the 1997 PPG Kart Series, and it certainly opened things up. It's shown us that the Firestone wet tyre is in great shape. Not in such great shape, though, is poor old Dario Franchitti's car. That's rather bent-looking Reynard. Into the pits comes Patrick Carpentier. What else has this race shown us so far? Well, it's shown us an amazing performance from Alex Zanardi, because remember, he didn't start that well up, but he's now got himself into the lead of this race. Just looking at a replay again of that Unser Franchitti incident, as you can see, Unser definitely giving Franchitti about a car's width on the outside. I think they just tangled, really. Maybe both cars getting a bit sideways under power. That's really where they're starting to accelerate out of the corner. The main problem was that they almost interlocked wheels, and it just took them both off into the tyre wall. So it's one of those incidents as they battle for position.
One of them racing deals, I think, as the NASCAR boys would say. And it's certainly a great shame for those two. Gilles de Ferran, who was right behind those two. Franchitti actually passed de Ferran going into the festival curves, and then trying to get another place with Al Unser Jr. on the exit. So that's a great shame. But it's certainly a race of changing fortunes, isn't it? We'll run down the order perhaps quickly. You saw the field summary there. It's Zanardi, Gugelmin, Vassar, Tracy, Andretti the top five, then Blundell, Herter, Moore, Ribeiro in ninth place there, the best of the Lolas, having stopped earlier on. And then Parker Johnson ran out the top 10, then Christian Fittipaldi, Raul Boesel, Michel Jourdain Jr., Gilles de Ferran, Andre Ribeiro, Hiro Matsushita, and Walter Salas 17th place and the last on the lead lap right now. One lap down is PJ Jones, Arndt Meyer, Richie Hearn, Scott Pruitt, Patrick Carpentier, who's I think describing this race as the worst weekend of his life. He's really struggling there with the Alimax car. Bobby Rahall's a couple of laps down in 23rd place.
Yes, and then we've got guys, Al Unser Jr., Dario Franchitti, both out of the race. Fangio's still running. Christian Dano, it looks as though he's out of the race, and Papis is out also. But we're getting ready for the restart now as Alex Zanardi leads the field around to start lap number 38. We're over half distance in terms of time now, and it's going to run to the 2 hours, and then the checkered flag will come out. It'll be a time-limited race rather than laps, as Michael Andretti battles with Mark Blundell. This is the battle for 5th place. Blundell trying to get past Paul Tracy into the chicane as well. Just manages to get through safely. But remember, Blundell on the Firestone tyres, which are working well in these conditions. Tracy is not. He's on the Goodyears.
Great restart there by Mark Blundell, able to get a run on Michael Andretti, coming off the final corner down to the green flag there. Great effort by Mark Blundell. 5th place now. Paul Tracy, as you say, right ahead of him now on the road. And then there's 3 Firestone cars ahead of him. Alex Zanardi, Mauricio Gugelmin and Jimmy Vassar.
Yeah, so Blundell now looking to get past Tracy as quickly as possible. You can see Tracy again. Look at it slide around, and how Blundell's he was just able to drive past Tracy. That gives you a graphic demonstration of how much grip there is on the Firestone tyres. Take nothing away from Mark's skill either in the wet weather conditions. Being a European racer, he's had his fair share of racing in the wet, but he had a sheer amount of grip more there than Paul Tracy had, and there was very little the Canadian could do to stop him coming past. Meanwhile, Greg Moore and Michael Andretti are battling, and Moore has got past Michael Andretti.
It's all about tyres, and Goodyear does not have it this afternoon, no question about it. In very wet conditions, the Goodyear tyres significantly worse than the Bridgestone Firestone tyres, and that's very, very interesting indeed.
There was another graphic demonstration as Andretti got on the power there. You could see how he flicked the steering wheel to control the resultant slide. He's having to work hard to stay on the road at the moment as Ribeiro, they're just sliding up past Brian Herter by the looks of things, and that's put Ribeiro now into 8th place. Good effort that. And Brian Herter coming back at him. This is the battle between the Lola of Andre Ribeiro and Brian Herter's Reynard. I talked to Adrian Fernandez early. He said that the Lola actually working quite well in the wet weather conditions, not putting quite so much load in the car, and he said the balance was really quite good, and that's being shown by teammate Andre Ribeiro here.
Yeah, they had some new pieces from Lola this week, and some new rear uprights on those cars. They figured out that the toe-in of the car was being affected under load, under acceleration out of the corners. The new rear uprights were supposed to cure that. However, after the first session on Friday, they figured it really actually wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, so they went back to their old setup, and they're now working with what they had before. But certainly some more changes to come from Lolas for Cleveland. There is Parker Johnson trying to put a move on Brian Herter. That is for 9th position, and Herter there on the Goodyear tyres, struggling as best he possibly can to stay ahead of the Firestone car of the Parker Johnston.
Parker Johnston, the local man who's had a tough weekend. He's had a lot of gearbox problems with the car. Qualified well down for Parker Johnston, down in 19th place, but now he's looking to make a move and get past. Let's see whether he can make this move stick as Greg Moore gets past Paul Tracy now. So Moore is up into 5th position. Ooh, Tracy tries to get him back again, almost contact between the two Canadians. And remember, in terms of the championship, this is interesting. Tracy leads the title battle at the moment with Michael Andretti in 2nd and Greg Moore in 3rd place in the championship battle. And there's not many points between them all. So Greg Moore getting past the championship leader so far, and now going chasing after the likes of Mark Blundell, Jimmy Vasser, Maurizio Guterman, and race leader, who is still Alex Zanardi. Last lap, in fact, the gap for Zanardi to Guterman had come up to just over a second. Remember, we've already seen Alonso Jr. out. Let's hear from him down in the pit lane now.
You just can't buy a break this season. What happened in that incident with Franchitti?
Well, he came diving in underneath. We can't see, no one can see out there right now, and so on these restarts it's really bad as far as your visual. He came blasting in there and moved me over to the left on the right-hander at the beginning of the right-hander. So then we were equal going into the left, and then on the exit, both of us we hooked ourselves into each other and drove us off the racetrack. And so, you know, we're fighting for position and ended up getting into each other.
We've got a picture of Franchitti in an animated conversation with his owner, Carl Hogan, at the same time, Junior. You talked before the race in our pre-race show about the importance of patience. Were you trying to be patient today under these tough conditions?
Yeah, I was being as patient as I could. You know, we were backing up more and more and more, and we were definitely patient. You know, he came blasting in there, and you know, you can't be too patient and not be aggressive. It is still a race, and so we were doing that. We were still being real smooth and careful, but we ended up hooking each other, and that's what took us off.
Thank you. Let's go to Marty.
And we've got Dario Franchitti as
I know
well.
you just had a discussion with your team owner. Care to share your thoughts, what happened out there and what you two shared?
Yeah, well, first of all, myself and Carl were kind of consoling each other. He's a little bit upset. Obviously, we were in a good position today. He's not upset with me. You know, he kind of says he feels sorry for me, and I feel really sorry for him because, you know, he's working really hard to get this whole thing working at the moment, the whole team. And, you know, we came in the pits 3rd, went out, whatever, 17th. We should have never been in the position we were in on the track. So it's unfortunate.
Did you get a little too aggressive? I mean, Alonso Jr. was saying there was nowhere for him to go.
Well, I passed him on the straight, and I was a good bit ahead of him on the straight when I passed him at the start-finish line even before. And he came from nowhere and tried to pass me in the left part, and he just kept coming out and out and out. Once we'd hooked up, we couldn't pass each other. You know, we couldn't do anything about it once we'd hooked up. So I'm a little bit upset about it. He was trying something he wasn't really on.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Well, fascinating stuff there, Jeremy, from Dario Franchitti, and those pictures of him Hogan. You could see that the relationship that exists between them, and both of them, of course, just so disappointed. There's Bobby Rahal. He's out of the race as well, checking over the back of the car, so another retirement. But we've seen some changes in position because Mark Blundell has come up to third position now. Mark's up to third ahead of Jimmy Vasser, dropped down to fourth. Greg Moore is in fifth place as Alex Zanardi is maintaining just about a second's advantage over Maurizio Gugelmin. Brian Herter, meanwhile, is coming under pressure here from Raoul Boesel. This is a good battle that's been going on. You may well have been watching it already as the interviews were going on. Parker Johnston's got ahead of them. He's in 8th place now. Then it's Brian Herter, then it's Raoul Boesel, and also in there is Michel Jourdain. He's battling for position as well. He's in 11th.
Great effort, isn't it? It's fantastic to see the little teams doing well. That's one of the great things I think about the PPG Kart World Series. The little guy has the same equipment as the big guys. There is Raoul Boesel pulling down the inside and the brake for the festival curves. Herter doing a super job there to keep the Brahma car behind him. Great job by Brian Herter. And there's Michel Jourdain Jr., not known for his patience, but doing a great job this afternoon.
Alex Zanardi still leads. Maurizio Gugelmin second. Mark Blundell now in third, and the track definitely beginning to dry. Close battle now for the lead as Zanardi comes under increasing pressure from Maurizio Gugelmin, and the track definitely is beginning to dry on line. And I could see last time around Mark Blundell was using the wet part of the track as he came past us on the start-finish straight, and you may well see these two guys doing it. Watch Gugelmin, slightly different line out of there. Now, are they going to cross onto the wet part? Yes, they're moving over to the inside, trying to get a bit of water to cool those wet tires, which are now beginning to overheat. There's Mark. Now see how sensible he's being. Right over on the wet stuff. Good driving from Blundell. Formula One experience showing there a little bit. He's some 4 seconds behind Zanardi, but he's trying to look after those wet weather tyres as the track begins to dry out some more now. Just lapping the German driver Arndt Meyer there. Zanardi goes past safely, and Gugelmin keeps him under pressure in second place. And the gap really has come down between these two. Perhaps Zanardi's tyres going off a little more as problems there for Scott Pruitt. Pruitt, who of course rejoined the race after his initial spin up at the same corner, but he's now come to a halt, and we've got a yellow flag on the corner. Whether that turns into a full course yellow, we'll find out in just a few moments. Battle for the lead continues. The two Reynard cars, one powered by a Honda, one powered by Mercedes-Benz. There is Scott Pruitt's car, and we have gone to a full course yellow. Surprise, surprise. They want to get that car out of the way safely, and it's a bit difficult to do that with the cars coming around at full pace in these conditions. So full course yellow comes out once again. We've had a few of them, and we've now had an hour and 14 minutes of this race. 3/4 of an hour to go. It will go to the full 2 hours, no doubt. And Zanardi, a little bit of respite from Maurizio Gugelmin's attack over the last couple of laps with this yellow flag.
Shame, though. It's just getting interesting, I reckon. The lap times for the leaders have dropped off by a second or so the last couple of laps. Here we're watching the second Brahma car. There's the one in the foreground of Raoul Boesel. In the background, however, there goes Scott Pruitt, exactly a mirror image of what he did earlier on, and this time obviously did not keep the fire running, stalled the motor, and that's the end of possibly his day. Jimmy Vasser, however, in the pits.
Yes, now he made one of the early stops, didn't he, before he was in the first round, so let's see who else comes in. Are we going to see Michael in? Christian is in. Christian Fittipaldi's in at the same time, and that's the car just ahead. Gilles de Ferran has also come into the pits. Michel Jourdain, or is that, no, it's Adrian Fernandez who's in as well. There's Christian Fittipaldi, and this stop for him, where is he running? He was down in 12th position, or he drops down to 12th place. Gilles de Ferran's car getting a visor clean. That's a fairly necessary part of the operation as he comes back out onto the circuit again. And as we mentioned, we completed 45 laps, some 45 minutes though still to go.
I'm trying to see which tyres is Christian Fittipaldi on. He wasn't on dry tyres, was he? I think it's probably a little bit premature for that. But certainly Gilles de Ferran there is on the wets, on the Goodyear wets.
Yes.
I think it must have just been my eyesight not quite so good. But certainly the track is drying out
Monitor
quite
with intent is Bobby Rahal. Bobby, how tough were these conditions? And I guess you had more than a handful today.
Well, I was going slowly on the first lap, and just the back end just came right around. I tried to keep it running, and it got off in the grass and stalled, and I couldn't get it restarted. And you know, the car was just a total handful. It's, you know, we're that far behind, and we tried different tire pressures, and that didn't seem to be the cure. So rather than cause an accident or get in one, you know, when you're 3 or 4 laps down at this stage of the game, there's not much point.
How is Brian's day going by contrast? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, well, I guess he slid off early, but looks like he's making good progress. So one of us will hold up the side.
Well, the years of experience may be making a prudent decision here. Thanks, Bob.
Ray Hall, the winner of this race back in 1987, but no such luck. We've just got 1 lap to go until we go green flag racing once again. Just a quick check on the positions so far, with Zanardi leading Gugelmin and Blundell, our top 3. Christian Fittipaldi dropping down the list a bit.
Back to the PPG Kart World Series with Valvoline Motor Oil.
So at the end of this lap, they'll begin to pick up the pace once again. And the last couple of laps of green flag racing, remember we saw a great battle beginning to hot up between the 2 leaders, Zanardi and Gugelmin. Zanardi had pulled away after that last yellow flag, but Gugelmin then was closing down the gap and was right on the gearbox of the target Ganassi car. Now, it's the weather conditions that are interesting at the moment, I have to say. No rain falling, dry line beginning to develop. Those guys who've just come into the pits and changed onto wet tyres again, or stayed on wet tyres, they may well start to regret that decision if it dries out a bit more.
Yeah, I think everybody is still on wet. It's a little bit premature, I think, a switch to dry weather tyres. But certainly off to the west, we can look out of our booth. The helicopter flying around over there, and it's certainly, the clouds are a good bit higher, no question about that. Look off to the east, to our right, and certain rain clouds there, but over to the left, significantly brighter, and that's going to make things, I think, extremely interesting over the final 40 minutes or so of this race.
Yeah, so we could get a complete change around as the track begins to dry out a little bit. Temperatures are reasonable, it's not really warm, but the track will dry out fairly quickly here with no rain falling, and it could completely change the pattern of this race. Zanardi with the advantage over Gugelmin at the moment, remember, both on Firestones. It could well give the Goodyear tired guys a little bit more of a chance to close up. Tracy running in 5th place, Andretti is in 6th place as we get ready for the restart.
And no question, Zanardi was struggling, wasn't he, before that caution came out here. So Gugelmin's going to be all over him, and there is Mark Blundell in 3rd place. He wants to get a good jump like he did last time to get past Michael Andretti. Here we are coming up for the restart out of turn 9 here. Get on the power early but not too hard, and lead it up towards the green flag.
So off we go again onto lap number 47. Zanardi, Gugelmin and Blundell, the 2 Pac West cars chasing the Ganassi car of Alex Zanardi, and down in towards the first chicane. Watch everybody in the background fanning out, looking for position. Greg Moore is in 4th place, 5th is Paul Tracy, 6th Michael Andretti. Parker Johnston's right in there. Oh, Johnson slid down the inside of Andretti there, and that's a good move from the local man, and that will please the fans that have come along to support him especially. And Johnson, that means he's moved up into 6th place as they go through that first corner.
Great drive there by Parker Johnson. He's had a miserable time this year, and particularly this weekend up until now, but now the fire is burning with Parker Johnson. He can feel that he has the potential here for a good result. Don't do anything silly. He knows that his tyres are better than the Goodyear tyres on Paul Tracy's car. There's Paul Tracy sliding sideways under power on the exit of turn 3. Johnson just biding his time. He'll wait for a clearer opportunity than that, and hopefully here coming onto the back straightaway, he'll be able to get the power down and move alongside Paul Tracy. Well, maybe not this time, but certainly for sure in the next couple. That's there he goes on the outside. Tracy holding the inside now for the chicane, a left-right chicane. Nowhere around there for Parker Johnson. Ooh, Tracy. Oh, he's trying hard as well, isn't he? Great drive by Paul Tracy. There's certainly the Goodyear tyres are not the tyres having this afternoon, but a very tight line for Parker Johnson off the exit of that corner.
Yes, looking for a way to get out of the corner quicker than Paul Tracy. That gets him alongside the Penske, but is it going to be enough to outbrake him? It looks good for Parker Johnson as he comes down in towards the festival chicane. Not a lot Paul Tracy can do about that as they turn into the corner, and Parker Johnson now moves up into 5th position. Just looking at a replay of that, as that was in fact the contact that was made as they came down towards that fast left-right at the end of the back straight. Oh, we've got a shunt down there. Gualter Salles on the right, and Andre Ribeiro and Brian Herter all involved down at the festival chicane. And there's Ribeiro's car on the far right. The white car of Gualter Salles is being pushed away from the wall on the outside, and Brian Herter's car is the white and black car that you can see on the left-hand side of your picture. And what a disappointment. They were all battling away just inside the top 10, and now 2 of those cars out. Walter Sales gets a push, and we've got a yellow flag again. Oh dear, what a shame. It's breaking the race up too much. We really would like a bit of green flag action now. We've had too many yellow flags over this last section of the race. Brian Herter urging those marshals to get him going again. And there is Andre Ribeiro in the Lola, and he was running in 10th place before that little incident caused them all a problem. So Zanardi staying out there. Now, yes, we may well see some other pit stops coming up here, but Zanardi, for the moment, has decided to stay out on circuit. So is Guterman, so is Blundell, and so is Greg Moore. So the leaders all staying out on circuit at the moment.
Fascinating to me on that just before the caution came out there, Johnson just drove past Paul Tracy coming off turn 9. Johnson was on the full wet side of the track, on the inside of the track. Tracy was on a much drier racing line, and still Parker Johnson just got the power down and just cruised right on past him. Amazing.
I tell you what, Jeremy, something we must mention is the fact that Paul Tracy, of course, didn't race in Detroit, but racing so well, so competitively here this weekend. It turned out to be a problem with the inner ear that caused his trouble in Detroit. A balance problem caused him vertigo. They've managed to solve that since Detroit, and he really is driving superbly well here this weekend, now in 6th. Pace car lights are out, and we're getting ready to start again. Alex Zanardi, meanwhile, is down to 11th after that pit stop, just to let you know. So we'll try and keep a track of his progress once again. He's behind Adrian Fernandez when they get this race underway.
Apparently the Pac West guys reckon they have enough fuel for 17 or 18 laps. It's going to be close. I would think we've got 27 minutes to go. I think we're probably going to be, if it continues to dry out, that's going to be very, very marginal indeed. Here comes Mauricio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell leading the cars through to complete lap 56 and green flag conditions once again.
So Gugelmin has a bit of an advantage over Blundell. Greg Moore then in 3rd place, Parker Johnson in 4th, ahead of Paul Tracy in 5th, and Raul Boesel, who's just ahead of Michael Andretti. Again, a little bit of contact down the back there as both Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi try and make up for lost ground. I couldn't quite see which one of the Ganassi cars it was that got almost onto the grass going through the chicane, but Gugelmin and Mark Blundell both pulling away a little bit from Greg Moore and looking for the dry part of the course through the corners. They've got to find the dry track through the corners because obviously that's the fastest way to get through the corners, but on the straights they've got to find the wet bit to try and cool the tyres down. So it really is the drivers working hard, looking at the surface of the road.
Notice this next piece of road here, under the trees, on this curving back straightaway where we saw Brian Herter spin off. That's the danger part. That's where, underneath those trees, it always takes much longer to dry out than almost the whole rest of the circuit. And that is the danger point for the drivers. It's not until they know they can comfortably go through there flat out that they can that they know they're safe to change to slick tyres.
We'll also keep an eye on the lap times, because normally on a track like this, if they get within around 9 or 10 seconds of the dry weather times, it would be quicker on slicks. A 1:14 on that restarted lap as Parker Johnson now makes a move on Greg Moore. Johnson on the outside in the green and white car, doesn't quite get past the blue and white car of Greg Moore, but that was a good effort, and Johnson is so fired up now, working well with the Green Racing team. His engineer Tony Cicali, of course, Jacques Villeneuve's engineer back in 95 when Villeneuve won the title here. Villeneuve was the pole position sitter at this race as well. His target only just beaten this year by Scott Pruitt, but Johnson now in fact having dropped back from Moore, and Paul Tracy suddenly getting good again. Look at this.
Look at Parker Johnson slide there on that almost drying track. No question, Paul Tracy has more traction in these conditions. This is very interesting indeed. Farther back, a couple of places further back, we saw Alex Zanardi made up a couple of positions on that last lap. He's up into 9th place now, car number 4, the early leader in this race. And there they are on that second fastest part of the straightaway. You can see the dry line beginning to emerge, and through this section here, there's 7 and 8, the chicane there, it's almost dry.
This is great stuff. The Goodyear tyre now perhaps coming into its own in these drying conditions. Parker Johnson's in trouble with his tyres, and he's reporting that they're probably going to have to stop for fuel anyway to come in and make a change, but whether the tyres will hold up, that's the big question mark at the moment. Gugelmin from Blundell, Greg Moore, Parker Johnston, Paul Tracy, Gilles de Ferran and Jimmy Vasser battling for position there as well, as we ride on board with the reigning champion Jimmy Vasser, and Alex Zanardi's close right up behind them. Watch out here, nearly contact coming out of the chicane. Gilles de Ferran right behind Jimmy Vasser, and Alex Zanardi not more than a car length behind the back of the Valvoline car as well. Through into turn 1 they go. Fantastic racing. You now ride on board with Alex Zanardi at the back of this trio.
Great stuff. There is You can see them there turning into the corner, and there is Gilles de Ferran right behind him. Gilles de Ferran, of course, on the Goodyear tyres. They worked very, very well in qualifying. He was second on the grid. He looks to the inside, not this time. Alex Zanardi. Zanardi turns into turn 5. I'm sorry, Jimmy Vasser turns in there to turn 5 and onto the back straightaway. Gilles de Ferran in his wheel tracks, and right behind those two is Alex Zanardi.
Good battle, this one, at the moment. Let's see how it resolves as they come down towards the end of the straight. Zanardi tries to get down the inside of de Ferran. Oh, he's up over the curb to avoid him. De Ferran shutting the door, fair enough, and de Ferran now gets past Vasser. De Ferran on the Goodyear tyres, gets past Vasser on the Firestones. Vasser goes back a place. Zanardi slides it coming out of the final corner, correcting the slide as he came out, getting the power on, but now looking to get onto the wet part of the track to cool those Firestone tyres down as they really start to wear on the drying surface. Behind him, Adrian Fernandez is running in 10th place. Christian Fittipaldi is in 11th, and Walter Salas is in 12th place as once again the two teammates to battle. And this time Zanardi. Zanardi's got a great exit there, and he manages to move up the place into 8th position.
Great stuff, isn't it? It was fascinating, wasn't it? There was Zanardi trying to make a move on Gilles de Ferran, and then the next corner, de Ferran himself makes a move on Jimmy Vasser, so nothing sacred here.
That's right. Up front, meanwhile, let me tell you, Guterman has a second advantage over Mark Blundell, and I was going to tell you about the lap times. They're doing 1:13s. They're just outside that 10-second area where you would think that it would be quicker on slicks. At the moment, they're about 13-14 seconds off their dry weather pace, so at this time, it still looks as though wet tyres are the best solution, but look how well Paul Tracy's going now. The Goodyear tyres are really helping him to get onto the gearbox of Parker Johnston, and as they come out of the final corner, Johnston still taking that tighter line. Tracy will have to try and make his way down the outside into the first chicane. Oh, Fernandez has been on the grass, rejoins right in front of Michel Jourdain, and Michael Andretti there as well, and Andretti down in 14th position now. He's dropped away somewhat with all of the changes that have been going on. He's down in 14th, and Jourdain just ahead of him as across the line they go, and Fernandez I think just lost that place to Jourdain.
There's some great stuff going all the way back down the field here. We see Walter Salas is still running in 11th place. Actually, he moved up as a result of Adrian Fernandez's mistake, and a horrible misfire on Walter Salas' car. So he's doing a fabulous job to keep that car at the moment within the points there. 11th place for Davis Racing. Back there with Mauricio Gugelmin.
We've heard that he's got around, they reckon he's got about quarter of an hour's worth of fuel on board that car. We've got 21 minutes to go. If they get some more yellow, they may be able to make it without stopping. If they don't get the yellow flag, then they could be in big trouble. And Paul Tracy now, look at him. He has got himself right up behind Greg Moore there, so he's got past Parker Johnston, and now trying to find a way past his fellow Canadian. We saw them swap earlier in the race, but now the Penske's really beginning to work. Those Goodyear tyres are helping his cause. The two Firestone tyre cars right onto the wet, trying to find the coolest part of the circuit. Paul Tracy doesn't bother with that. His tyres are holding up fine, but this is dangerous territory as he tries to go around the outside of Moore. Now Moore defends the line, coming out of the corner. That's where Tracy could have the edge here. Gets alongside, does he? No, not quite. Now looks for the inside into turn 1. Still not quite there. And the battle between the two of them continues. Tracy on 3 wins this year, Greg Moore on 2 wins, and now involved in a tremendous battle for 3rd place, as well as a battle in the championship. You can see the speeds on the backstretch. Paul Tracy about 5 mile an hour slower than Greg Moore on that speed trap so far.
Almost pushing him there, wasn't he, on the exit of that corner. Paul Tracy, I'm just looking back on my lap chart, he didn't make a stop when most of those other guys did on either lap 45 or lap 54, different people stopping on different laps. So I think he might be struggling for fuel as well, which is a great shame for him, because he has, I would say, just about the fastest car on the racetrack at the moment. Well, in fact, last lap around 13.2, a second quicker than the leaders. No question, Paul Tracy has the fastest car at the moment.
But does he have enough fuel, as you say? That's the big question mark. All of these guys, oh, look at that, Moore got very sideways. That's all it needs. Just that one little sideways moment from Greg Moore. That's all that Paul Tracy was looking for, and he now moves up into 3rd position. So the two PacWest cars, 1st and 2nd. Championship leader Paul Tracy returning after that medical problem in Detroit, now into 3rd place.
Great drive by Paul Tracy, and also Gilles de Ferran looking to make a move on Raoul Boisel. I think Paul Tracy is coming in next time around. We hear from the pits there, from David Phillips, our spotter here, Words Motoring News, and thanks David for that information. Paul Tracy, we can expect him to make a pit stop next time around.
Well, he's right behind Mark Blundell now. Look at him go as he fights to find a way past the PacWest car. But if Paul is coming into the pits, then that'll change the whole complexion of this race. How about Zanardi, you may be asking, because he's made a stop, hasn't he? So he's now in 8th position, Alex Zanardi, still working his way up the order as Paul Tracy now looking for the chance to get past Mark Blundell. Blundell on that back stretch. He'll still be fending off the Penske, and Tracy may not decide to take a gamble here. If he knows he's coming into the pits anyway, there's not a great deal of point in risking everything to get past the Motorola car.
Which tyres is he going to choose? Assuming he comes into the pits this time around, there he is, peeling to the inside, coming into pit lane. Car number 3, Paul Tracy, in 3rd position. Which tyres is he going to choose?
Well, most of them still doing wet weather tyres, but Christian Fittipaldi's just done a 1:10, and that would be getting into slick weather territory. Now let's see what they go for. It looks as though they probably go for wets on, or are they? No, they're going for slicks, I do believe. They are indeed going for slick tyres on the Penske, and that is an interesting choice for the Penskes as they comes back out. Interesting to see that good lap time last time around from Fittipaldi's back down into the 1:13s this lap. As Scott Pruitt comes back, look at that, on the slick tyres, he can't even get out of the pit lane, can he even keep it straight? And the problem is, look, he's come out right in front, or right behind a whole bunch of cars, as down the escape road goes
PJ Jones. He'll have to come to a stop there at the end of that escape road before we can rejoin it. Let Tracy go through. The pit lane, of course, that'll be one of the... Oh, Paul Tracy spins!
He's lost it on cold slicks. Just the problem. You've got to be so careful. But can he get going again? He's still, look at the way the car's going. Still going across the grass. And he's still got the engine running. Has he? Yes, he's still spinning the wheels. Now he's got to get off the grass if he possibly can. And slick tyre traction on wet grass is not that good. But he tries to get back on. He's going to make it back onto the circuit. No damage done to the car. And he rejoins the track. But the track is just so slippery. And the problem is those cold tyres, they're not allowed to preheat them, unlike in Formula 1 where they can get the tyres up to temperature in the tyre blankets before they go in the car. It's not allowed in this form of racing, and he's struggling.
That's a battle for 5th place. Raoul Boisel, Gilles de Ferran, the target car of Alex Zanardi and Christian Fittipaldi all closing up there together. A great battle for now. 5th position, as we saw a replay of Paul Tracy. It looks pretty dry there, but just that change of surface, and a little bit after that, it's very difficult. You can see the change of concrete to asphalt there, and there goes Tracy spinning across the grass and taking out all the Budweiser signs.
Yeah, great advertising for Budweiser, but Paul Tracy, there you are, look at him going straight across the grass. Look at the speed the thing went off at. Remember, he's only in 2nd gear coming out of that chicane, so it's one of the slowest parts of the whole track, and just look how far it went across the grass before he managed to get it under control. He's got it under control now, but that's dropped him well down the order. He's in 15th position as he comes across the line. There are just over 15 minutes to go in this race until the checkered flag comes out at the 2-hour mark. One of the Brahma Sports cars coming into the pits. That presumably is Raoul Boisel, who is running in 5th position, and they may well have decided they just cannot risk going to the flag. Yes, it is Raoul Boisel. He slides into the pit lane there, and they're going for fuel. They do not want to risk running out before the end of this race. Meanwhile, Gugelmin still leads. His advantage over Mark Blundell, some 3.4 seconds. Greg Moore still running in 3rd place. Parker Johnson in 4th. Gilles de Ferran in 5th. And then look at this battle between the two Ganassi cars. Well, in fact, no, it's Zanardi and Fittipaldi who are battling there. That's Zanardi in the target car. It's Christian Fittipaldi right behind him. Christian's going so well in these conditions, driving with that broken leg. First race back, remember. And Fittipaldi, absolutely brilliant so far this weekend in tricky conditions. He's doing it once again, isn't he, on those Goodyear tyres?
Yes, and Goodyear tyres. Paul Tracy last time around, he's last on the lead lap, his 15th position. Last lap around, 1:07.7. Mauricio Gugelmin's last lap, 1:13.1. 6 seconds a lap. That is a huge margin.
Into the pits comes
the race leader.
The race leader, Mauricio Gugelmin, lap number 66 he comes in on, and they decide they have to go for it. They have to have fuel, and they have to put slick tyres on. The pace of the guys on slicks now just that much too quick, and they've got to make the switch. So on go the slick tyres. The fuel goes aboard to make it to the finish of the race, and once that's all done, he can get back out, but that drops him down the order. So now Mark Blundell leads this race, lapping at 1:14, but as Jeremy said, a 1:07 for Paul Tracy on the last lap. A remarkable advantage advantage on slick tyres once you've got them up to temperature. Now watch out, Maurizio, don't make the same mistake that Paul Tracy made on cold slicks. We saw how slippery it is out there, and oh, look at that. You see the cold tyres just do not grip at all. But he's being sensible. He's not fighting these guys for position. He's waiting until the tyres come up to temperature before, there again, you can just see that's where Tracy went off. The obliterated Budweiser signs down there, but Gugelmin gets through that part safely and now tries to build up the tyre temperature. That'll come up in about a lap, and once he's got a lap under his belt, the tyres will really start to grip the road well on that dry line. The problem is when they have to overtake, get on the wet stuff. Oh, look at that. Oh, is he holding Joel nearly off the track onto the grass? Again, the cold slicks, just a nightmare. Oh, and Tracy's lost it. Tracy, after that dramatic quick lap, and he's just done a 1:06 on the last lap, and now he's blown it again. He's got onto the damp stuff somewhere, and it just shows you how hard it is on slicks.
Mark Blundell in the pits. We have a new race leader. It's Gilles de Ferran. A couple of laps ago, he was running in 7th place, but with these pit stops, and he's just able to move through into the leader. He's still on wets, of course, Gilles de Ferran. 1:12.1 last time around. There's Greg Moore trying to get around, but Blundell leads Greg Moore out of the pits. We've got a motor race here with, what, about 13 minutes left to go.
I remember Zanardi is up there. He's in 2nd place, but old Salas is looks on fire there. Nasty, get out of there, Qualter, because that car is going up in smoke. The marshal's there fairly quickly, and a very smoky end to his race. Now that, of course, is likely to cause a yellow flag. Now that could cause some fun and games here, couldn't it? If we get a yellow flag now with some 12 minutes of the race still to go. Zanardi is still on wets, I think, at the moment, isn't he? Gilles de Ferran is still on wets, and they're running 1st and 2nd at the moment. Christian Fittipaldi has come up to 3rd place. Greg Moore is being shown as 4th, ahead of Michael Andretti, and poor old Gualter Sales, who had come up to 6th position before that happened to him. And now, of course, big problems. Meanwhile, coming down the straight, you can see the view from on board Gilles de Ferran on his wet tyres.
Do you see that right front lock up there? Just as he look at him sliding, look at the understeer as he comes off that corner. Boy, he's got a handful there as Gilles de Ferran. Last lap around, 1:11.6. Looking down the order to see who else is going faster. Well, actually nobody right now, because of course Tracy had that spin, and the other guys aren't yet up to speed on their slick tyres. So certainly he has the advantage right now.
Don't forget, he's on the Goodyear wet, the one that lasts better. The question is, can he make it last the remaining 11 minutes now it is of this race? His advantage, some 3.8 seconds over Zanardi last time round. Zanardi on the Firestone tyre that is not holding up so well in these drying conditions. Fittipaldi then in 3rd place, and he's doing a good job still, lapping in 1:12 the last time around. Michael Andretti is running in 4th. And with all the changes, Adrian Fernandez has suddenly popped up into 5th place with Mark Blundell in 6th position. There is Fittipaldi, 3rd position for him at the moment. And it really is all changed so far.
Yeah, he's got past Alex Zanardi there, so 2nd place now for Christian Fittipaldi, absolutely reveling in these conditions.
Now, is Christian on slicks? Did we spot a change? He may well be on slicks. There's the sort of pace he's been doing, and we saw that 1:10, remember, from him a little bit early on. Doesn't seem to be too bothered about going on the wet stuff, but of course he's on Goodyears anyway, so it may just be that his wet tyres are holding up remarkably well at the moment. Looking down at the car, difficult to see at speed exactly what tyres he's on, but Christian Fittipaldi driving an absolutely storming race and closing up to the back. Yes, he's still on wets, as you can see, but he's closing up to the back of Gilles de Ferran. What a comeback from Christian Fittipaldi, out of action since the Australian race at Surfers Paradise when he suffered that big accident, which actually involved Gilles de Ferran in as well. Now he's come back and he's running in 2nd, and now you're looking at the battle further down for 7th position, with 7th Greg Moore, 8th Michel Jourdain, and no, he's been passed by Maurizio Gugelmin, so Gugelmin is now in 8th place and Jourdain in 9th position.
Yeah, Jourdain's struggling now. He's still on wet weather tyres. Gugelmin goes past him there on the slicks, and that's the difference between those two right now. Is Raoul Boisel also in the picture, and Parker Johnstone, who'll be next up in line.
I tell you what, Jeremy, it's so confusing, this race at the moment. We've got to sort of just draw breath for a moment and try and work out what's going on here. At the moment, it's Gilles de Ferran who's leading. He's on wet tyres, he's on the Goodyear tyre, the harder tyre. Christian Fittipaldi is in 2nd position. He's also on the Goodyear wet. Alex Zanardi is in 3rd position, and he is on the Firestone wet. Michael Andretti is in 4th position, but some way further behind. Then Adrian Fernandez is in 5th, and Mark Blundell, well, he's now in 6th. So we've seen such a complete change around in the last few laps, and we really are into the closing stages of this race. There, your top 6 positions, and we've still got a few laps to go here. Anything can still happen. as we know in motor racing. De Ferran up front. The pole position sitter, remember, put in that dramatic last... Well, no, he wasn't pole here. He was on the front row, put in that dramatic effort to grab pole from Scott Pruitt in the closing moments of yesterday's qualifying session. But it's been a while since he's won a race. And the Brazilians are getting very, very, very excited because, of course, it's a 1-2 for Brazil at the moment, with De Ferran being chased by Christian Fittipaldi. And let's look how close now Christian Fittipaldi is to the back of Gilles de Ferran's car. And I just cannot believe how well Fittipaldi's going. Remember, it's his first race back. He's not fit. That broken leg means that he hasn't been able to do the training that's necessary for a racing driver to perform at top level. He's done some swimming, that sort of training in recent weeks, but he's just not at full fitness level. And here he is, chasing our leader and looking to get into the lead of this race.
Meanwhile, we hear that the black flag will be shown to Paul Tracy, apparently for passing under one of those local yellows. So he'd moved himself back up to 11th place and clearly had one of the fastest cars on the track. But that'll be all for naught, because he'll be in within a lap or two to serve that penalty.
Fittipaldi's closed right up to the back of Gilles de Ferran's car now, but can he find a way of getting past the Valvoline machine? Zanardi is in third, but he's some 8 seconds behind these two battling for the lead. There's then a 5-second gap back to Michael Andretti, and then another big chunk of time, 9 seconds back to Mark Blundell. Behind Mark, Greg Moore is right on his tail. And behind Moore, there's a 4-second gap back to Adrian Fernandez, Maurizio Gugelmin, who's right on his tail, then Raul Boesel, Parker Johnston, Paul Tracy, who, as Jeremy said, is likely to get a black flag, and Michel Jourdain, who's 12th.
Raul Boesel, actually last lap around, his fastest lap, I think, probably of the race, 1 minute 4.491. It's fascinating to look up and down the leaderboard here. The leader last time around 1:11. This time, as he comes past a complete lap 72, 1 minute 10.754, and Raul Boesel coming through, that's 5 seconds a lap faster.
Last lap time for the two leaders was 1 minute 10. That gives you an idea. The guys on slicks are now going some 6 seconds a lap faster. Mark Blundell and Greg Moore, both 1 minute 4s last time around. 6 seconds a lap faster than the leaders. They won't be able to sustain this lead at that sort of pace. They will not be able to hold on. And Blundell was just 2 seconds behind Andretti as they went past last time. He is flying on slick tyres. The question is, can he get past? Because the wet offline will make it very, very difficult. But Blundell is flying at the moment.
Fastest lap last time around, 1 minute 4.586. He's within a couple of seconds, Andretti. He'll eat him up in no time at all. We're watching here the leaders as one of the Toyotas behind the two leaders there. Gilles de Ferran leading Christian Fittipaldi, and the Toyota is probably on slick tyres. He might well go past them coming onto the straightaway here.
That just shows you the difference. There's a Toyota on slick tyres, and of course we don't normally see this car going so well of PJ Jones, but he's almost finding a way back past the two leaders because being on slicks gives him that performance edge. Meanwhile, we want to look back. In the background you could just see Zanardi, but he is being caught by Andretti and Blundell. Cross the line goes Zanardi as he goes past our commentary position. Andretti, Moore, Blundell. So Moore has got past Blundell on that lap, and it's now Moore who's putting Andretti under pressure. Greg Moore also on slick tyres, and he is really flying now. The winner of the last two races is beginning to close up towards the leaders, but there's a gap of some 14 seconds between Greg Moore and these two struggling around on their now very worn wet tyres. Now we've got, as the clock ticks away, we've got exactly 5 minutes to go now. That's around 4 laps to go of this track. Can De Ferran and Fittipaldi hold on to the advantage here? Zanardi struggling to stay in third place, and Andretti and Moore, I think next time around, Jeremy, Andretti and Greg Moore are going to be right on Zanardi's tail.
Yes, they are indeed. No question, they have significantly faster cars. Now, these Goodyear wets might be pretty good, but I don't think they're good enough to hold off the slick-shod car of Greg Moore. Looking, biding his time there. That's not the place to try and make a pass in that turn 7-8 chicane on the back straight.
But this is Zanardi. That's how close it's got. Zanardi is now being caught by both Greg Moore and Mark Blundell, who are both on slicks. And now Mark Blundell and Greg Moore looking to get past him and into third place for Greg Moore. Zanardi goes down the inside trying to find the culvert. Mark Blundell's trying to get past Greg Moore. Parker Johnston's gone off at the same time. It's happening everywhere. He was in 9th place. Oh no, Zanardi's gone straight on, down at the chicane, gets back onto the circuit, and Mark Blundell stays on the dry line. He gets past. Greg Moore has lost a bit of time there as well. Oh, I wish we'd seen that. That must have been a real wheel-banging bit of racing going into the chicane there. But the result is that Blundell is now in third. He's on slick tyres, and he's chasing after our two leaders. The gap is 12 seconds. We've got about 3 laps to go, but he, on a clear track, has about a 6-second a lap advantage. This is going to be great stuff, and Blundell, once again, after 2 weeks ago, we saw the drama, more drama. Zanardi's off the road again. Those tyres have lost all grit now. He is struggling all the time to stay on the road, and he's just lost several places in one go as Moore and Bozell have gone past him. And Bozell, remember, he's flying on slick tyres at this point. Well, where do we look next?
I don't know. But meanwhile, certainly a little bit of breathing ground for Gilles de Ferran. There goes Mark Blundell past us in third position now, 6.7 seconds behind the second place car, the first and second place cars. Blundell can win this motor race, no question.
He can win it. He's got a 6-second a lap advantage over the two leaders. We've still got a couple of laps to go. Alex Zanardi, you ride on board with him, and Paul Tracy's just gone past him. So Tracy has also just gone past Raoul Bozell, and Tracy is now, or is that Pruitt? That's actually Pruitt further down the field. So Tracy's now up into 8th position as he charges round on his slick weather tyres. The championship leader still trying to get some points from this event. The championship not going to change that much, although Greg Moore, of course, going quite well. He's in 5th place and he's lying 3rd in the championship. But I want to see how quickly Mark Blundell is catching these two. There's Blundell in the background. And we've got, as they come around, the clock is ticking away. It'll be virtually 58 minutes of this, 1 hour 58 minutes of this race completed. Blundell can win this. He can win this race. He's in 3rd position as he comes down the start-finish straight. Don't worry about the white and green car. That's out of it. That's not playing the game at all. The Motorola car of Mark Blundell is catching the two leaders. Gilles de Ferran leads. 2nd place, Christian Fittipaldi on wet tyres. We've got a spinner down there. Let's hope that doesn't bring the yellows out. We want to keep the racing going here. And Mark Blundell now looking to get past Christian Fittipaldi, but he's going to get on the wet stuff to do it. Well, this is fantastic stuff.
Yeah, don't get carried away, Mark Blundell. Patience is what you need here right now. He's clearly got a faster car. He's as much as 5 seconds a lap faster than the wet shod cars in front of him, but he can't afford to make a mistake. There's a couple of minutes to go in this race. 2 more laps. He on the outside there and tries into turn 5. That is not going to work. Fittipaldi moves across, but on the exit, Blundell, that's a slippery line there. He can't get the power down, and Fittipaldi able to use those traction of the wet weather tyres. This is great stuff. Blundell looks the inside into turn 7.
Looks as though he might have made it this time. He's got to get back on the dry stuff. He does it, and he goes up in a 2nd position. It's given Gilles de Ferran the chance to get away a little bit as they come round this time. Will they get the white flag this time as they come round? Let's keep an eye on the start of Gantry. The white flag, it's the last lap of the race in Detroit. Mark Blundell lost the win on the last lap. He could take the victory here. He's got a performance advantage over Gilles de Ferran's car. Fittipaldi locks up. He's down to 3rd position now. Bozell is in 4th. Greg Moore is in 5th. Blundell is chasing his first win in the PPG Kart Series, and he's in with a real shout, but he's got to get it right. And de Ferran is totally entitled to defend to all he's worth here. The last lap of a motor race, just about anything goes, and de Ferran will be protecting that lead as best he can. Through this sequence of corners, he is not going to leave a gap if he can avoid it.
Oh, this is great stuff. There he is through turn 3. He gets a power down like he did the last time with Christian Fittipaldi. Will he? Whoa! De Ferran says no. He's the leader. He can take the line. Now he has to make it do at turn 7 and 8, the same place as last lap, Ben.
This is the last chance for Mark Blundell. Is he going to get down the inside into the final couple of corners? He's looking for the inside line. De Ferran holds the middle road. Now Mark has got to get the best exit out of the last corner. It's the only way he can do it is on the power, on the traction as he uses the slick tyres out towards the checkered flag. Gilles de Ferran leads. Mark Blundell is coming up on him. The checkered flag awaits. Across the line they go, and it's going to be Mark Blundell. Mark Blundell wins at Portland. Mark Blundell is the winner by 27 thousandths of a second from Gilles de Ferran, and what an amazing finish to the 9th round of the PPG Kart Series after losing in Detroit. Mark Blundell wins in Portland.
Good grief. And look, there in the picture is also Raoul Boisel in third place. We didn't see him, but look at this. There's less than 100 yards to go as Marc Blundell just inches past Gilles de Ferronnet to take the win. And here is Raoul Boisel trying the inside line, absolutely abreast as they go across the line. What a fabulous motor race that was.
That's the way we like to see it. 3 cars separated by 55 thousandths of a second. And Marc Blundell becomes the first British winner of a PPG kart series since Nigel Mansell as he wins at Portland. Fantastic performance from him. Gilles de Ferran in second, Raoul Boisel third, Christian Fittipaldi fourth, Greg Moore fifth, and Guterman sixth. Well, what a motor race that was, and a brilliant choice. And there, Derek Walker, the look in the Walker camp, Derek Walker just couldn't quite believe it. And in the Pac West camp, that was the view as they crossed the line. And Bruce McCaw there on the right-hand side of your picture, as they came across the line looking to see where they finished. What delight for the Pac West, and it's so delightful. 5 points now between Paul Tracy and Greg Moore in the championship, with Michael Andretti only a further 4 points behind. Things are really getting very, very close at the top. But what a tremendous race that was. And Marc Blundell, well, congratulations to him. I mean, we have to be a little bit jingoistic here, I think, Jeremy. It's great to see Marc Blundell winning a round of the PPG kart series. It's into his second year now, but what a tremendous race he drove. And I'm just so delighted for him that he's taken the win.
Well-deserved win for Marc Blundell. Just a tremendous drive him. You can't get much closer than that, can you?
Well, it's been a tremendous race, and I hope you enjoyed our coverage here on Eurosport. From Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw, until next time, bye-bye.